Have you ever looked at someone running a successful business and thought, how the hell did they even start that business? Because let's be honest, most people think you need money to make money. That's somewhat true, but what if you don't? What if the one thing holding you back isn't money? It's you. Today we're talking about starting a business with $0. That's right, no money, no investors, no rich uncle, no secret funding round. Just pure creativity, hustle, and strategy. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to break down exactly how people build something from nothing. How to use what you've got, who you know, how to leverage. And by the end of this episode, you know exactly how to make that decision for yourself. Let's get into it. This is Business Beats, and today we're building you from zero. So building a business from zero with zero money, like very difficult. But I've also built, a few multi-million dollar companies, failed and lost some of those companies, by the way, had to liquidate, restart again. I think this is round 3 in this company, or group of companies, I should say. But my first 1 or 2 companies, I had $0 to invest, $0. I had a mortgage. I didn't have a family then. It was just myself and my girlfriend and, living free, right? But I always had this urge to start my own business. Now, as a musician, which I used to be, I would work during the day, play gigs in the evening and generate cash, right? And I'd stack a little bit of that cash away. So my first thing for you, if you're looking to start a business or a side hustle, you don't need to go all in when you start, right? But you do need to generate some revenue because it does cost money. So do that in the first instance. But if I was to advise on how to start a company now, 2025, we're filming this, the first thing I would start with would be, who do you know? Like, who do you know? Who are you close to? Who do you know who has built a business before successfully? Or even failed, like you can learn from people like that. Who's connected to another person? Like you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So who are you hanging out with? So that costs you nothing. And how do you reap the benefits of that? Simple. You gain knowledge and you get access. People underestimate the power of access. Just knowing somebody can put you in a position into a market to leverage, right? With $0 down. If you can build trust and you can communicate well, people underestimate that, right? Communication and building relationships is so critical in business, so critical to get that right. You should do that because that costs you $0. By the way, from zero to get to the business, and the business is over here, Mr. Smiley Face. There you go. Look, skinny, lost a lot of weight, probably needs to go to the gym. Hang on, let's put a couple there you go. So to go from here to here, you have to start with just who you're close to. It's so critical. And by the way, if you're not in that environment where you can do that, you just bypass it. Or you go and create those relationships. So how do you do that? Well, you might go to attend free webinars and seminars. You might follow local people in the business community. You might pick up the phone, and I've done this before. I remember there was a gentleman who I formed a partnership with in Australia, and he sold one of the most successful propagation insurance websites in insurance in Australia. I think he sold it for over $800 million. He was a doctor, he was a PhD, he was an entrepreneur, and he was a very successful person. I saw him on a podcast interview, and in 15 minutes, I figured out who he was. I had done my research, found his contact details and called him. And then 12 months later, we formed a business partnership together. What it cost me? It cost me nothing. So you can do that. Just pick up the phone. Like, why not? Like I say to hands behind the camera, like aim high, right? So if we want to imagine getting Hormozy on the pod, right? How do you do that? Well, we don't want to pay him. Say if we had no money, we don't pay him. But what do? Like you just call, email, strategize to figure it out. And it might take 2 years, but you get there eventually. By the way, this is a journey. You're not going to be a millionaire overnight, right? So just do one thing at a time. So the first thing is, who do you know? If you don't know anyone, pivot, get on the phone, send emails, do DMs, do whatever you can, but plug into a community of entrepreneurs who are being successful so they can pull you up. And please don't hang around people who are unsuccessful. It's just not going to help you. They will pull you down and keep you there. Right, so take note of that. So that's lesson 1. Work for an entrepreneur. For what? For free. Super powerful. Super powerful. I've done that before as well. So these are lessons that I did, right? Now, all I can talk about is what I've done and the results and the experience and the learnings and the education that I've formulated over a period of years. You know, over the last 300 years I've been in business. Work for an entrepreneur for free. How do you do that? Well, you ask. So I guarantee you there's a company in your local market, in your local community, through a friend that you know, or you could just pick a company, go, I want to work for Apple. Great, go work for Apple. Oh, I can't. That's what you hear. Oh, I can't. I don't have any experience. Well, go and get the experience. Oh, well, how do you do that? Go and get the experience. People overcomplicate things. It's very simple. Oh, I want to work for Apple. Good, great. What would you do? Write a list. What are the 3 things I can do to move me towards that goal? Update my resume. Do a couple of courses, educate myself, get some skills on paper, and apply like your life depends on it. Walk into the store and go, hey, I need you guys to employ me. We're not hiring right now. No, you're not hiring me. I'm going to come and work for you for free. And they go, what? You go, yep. And if you like me after 30 days, give me a job. If you don't, no harm, no foul, I'll leave. Imagine that. Oh, it's not company policy. Well, let's figure that out together, right? Imagine doing that. I tell you what, if someone walked into my business and said, I want to work for you, Lawrence. What skills do you have? None. You must have some skills. What about marketing skills? No. Don't even know how to spell the word. Oh, okay, great. What about sales? He goes, I can't sell anything. Oh, okay, great. And what's your education? I said, I left school when I was 5 years old. Oh, okay, great. So you didn't finish your high school certificate? No, I didn't. I didn't even go to high school. Okay, great. What's your background? I was addicted to drugs. Oh, okay, great. So, but he walked into my office one day. He's trying to change his life, or she's trying to change her life. And he goes, hey, I want to work for your company. I've been watching things online. I love your channel. I'm learning a lot. I want to come and work for you. I've got no skills. I don't even know what I can do for you. But here's one thing I know. If you give me an opportunity, I'll be successful. You don't need to pay me. I'll work for free. But if you like what I do, and we can connect and find something where I can add value to your business, maybe, just maybe sometime in the future, you'll hire me and pay me for what I do. I would say yes to that, probably every time. Right? So go and work for an entrepreneur and don't go find it. Don't go. Do not look for excuses. Just go and do it. Because I could go and work for an entrepreneur for free and basically they would all say yes. Go and identify who they are. Who do you know? Who do you know who's connected to somebody? And if they're not connected to anyone, go and do it yourself and go and offer your services for free and learn. That's the whole point. So that's number 2. Skills and education. Whew. Okay, so if you want to start from zero, it requires skills and education. It also requires intelligence. You need to know how to execute. You need to know how to plan. You need to be organized. You need to know how to manage your time. Like all these things ensue, right? And there's skills and education. So if you want to build a company, this little guy over here is super happy. This guy owns 3 Lamborghinis, 4 Priuses, and lives in a big house with a swimming pool on the roof. So this guy here's got lots of skills and lots of education. Why? Because he's worked for entrepreneurs before, and that entrepreneur, he kept his mouth shut and his ears open, and this guy just gathered these 2 assets. These are assets, by the way, you carry these through your life. These are worth more than anything in the world, even 20 Priuses put together. They are. Skills and education. Now, because I've done this, I got offered a job. So I was outside of music, well, maybe even inside music. I worked for a company, and I was always pretty good at leadership, right? So I got a job in a warehouse, right? When I first moved to the city, I was 24. And I had to, because I didn't have any money. I just had to get to work and earn some money. That wasn't my first job. My first job was welding caravan chassis and putting in hi-fi sound systems into executive caravans. Weird, right? So that was some of my first working experiences, right? But you have to do that. You learn so much from that. Even in those jobs, I just listen and I watch. I started Monday, and in probably under 6 months, I was the foreman of the whole floor, manufacturing floor. Dude, I was like 25. And there were guys that were there who'd been there for 20 years. I was back in the time where people stayed in their job for 20, 30 years. And they didn't like me, but I didn't care. So, and I said, give me opportunity to learn. I chased it where these other guys just waited for it to happen. So that's the difference about about gaining skills and education as an asset. Just say, teach me. Ask your supervisor to teach you. The founder, like the guy who owned the company, super successful. I remember once he just says, I said, I want to go away camping. I haven't been camping yet. And he goes, come with me. He took me out the back. He goes, here's my keys. It is huge four-wheel drive, kind of brand new. He'd only known me for 4 months. And he says, it's yours. Just keep it for a few days. Those are the moments where you go, shit, okay. Like, he appreciates me. Why? Because I work hard. I'm there before everyone else. I'm working late, and I'm learning. I'm being inquisitive. How do you do this? Show me how to do that. Why do you do that? Show me how to do this. And then I was running everybody in that factory. Right? That's a working example of leaning into education and work for an entrepreneur. By the way, every business has an entrepreneur. If you work at Big W, Kmart, at a local cafe, someone owns those businesses. There are general managers and CEOs, right? Go and hunt those people down. That's what I would do. So skills and education is super critical, because you have to learn skills and gain collateral to form a side hustle and build a company, right? So we haven't even moved into earning money yet. You have to do this before you earn the money, because the money will never come without these assets, right? So just consider that. So skills and education, super critical. And ask your people around you to teach you. Listen, ask more questions and stop talking. And that alone will get you promoted. That'll earn you more money. You get that money, you push into a side hustle. You start to invest and you start to build that up. And then the day will come when you can take your suit off, throw it in the bin and walk out. It'll come eventually. Number 4 is called open your eyes. I guarantee you the other word for this is awareness. Awareness is so critical for entrepreneurs. Successful entrepreneurs are always aware. They're aware of the market, trends. They can see signs that are going to hit the business and harm the business. They know when sales are going down. They put reports around them so they can stay aware of what's happening in the business. They know how to react to people, how to communicate. They know how to deliver instructions to somebody because they're very aware how people operate. So this is a bit of an unknown thing, and not many people talk about it. I think Seneca talks about it quite a bit. But outside of him, there's not a lot of people who are talking about awareness. And it's a bit of a superpower. It's like listening, right? In this section here, work for an entrepreneur and listen, stop talking. Awareness is you have to be aware to be able to engage in listening, right? So if I see an entrepreneur make a move, I notice it. If I see a senior executive say something or deploy something, I'm aware of it. And I watch, right? And I listen and I learn. Even if you are a founder of a multi-million-dollar company, $100 million company, you don't stop learning. Like, the skills and education just continues for the rest of your life, right? So, but you have to be aware of it. Like, you have to be aware of your deficiencies. That drives education. I need to get better at managing the P&L or managing money. I'm aware of that. So it's internal awareness and external awareness, right? But if you're working for a company right now and you hate your job, cool, no harm, no foul. But do you hate your job because you're overthinking it and that job actually is providing you access to skills and education and connect to an entrepreneur, but you're just not aware of it? That's pretty common. Took me a while to see that. I moved from a blue collar role into a sort of junior executive role in my 20s. Because again, I was aware, right? So I was working in a warehouse. Again, in that warehouse in about 8 months, I became the assistant warehouse manager looking after 40 staff in my 20s. Why? Because I was just gathering skills and education. I was very aware what was going on. I could see opportunities, right? So actually in that role, in that 8 months, my salary increased 3 times. They gave me 3 pay rises in that short amount of time. We were using a recruitment company for external staff, right? Like seasonal staff for Christmas and Thanksgiving and all the holidays. And I noticed the recruiters come and go. And I'd ask my supervisor, I said, who are those people? They drove, nice BMWs and wore nice suits. And I went, oh, that's super interesting. And he said to me, Dean was his name, he said, those are our recruiters. I said, what do they do? He said, they provide staff to us. This is how it works. And then I figured out how much they earn because I did a bit of research, right? I did a bit of research and wow, I said, well, this business is quite profitable. And that was a start for me. That small moment, and one of the very first companies I built that was successful was actually a recruitment business because the margins were so big. Why? Because I opened my eyes, became aware, I did a bit of research and I figured out that they were placing people into the business on a 100K salary or a 60K salary and getting paid 15%. That was like $10,000. It would take me 3 months to take home $10,000. And they were doing it in one placement. And I was like, wow, that's an incredible business. So I never forgot that. Anyway, that said, because I was aware, I developed a relationship with the recruiters. And then what happens is, who do you know? I knew somebody who worked for a recruitment company. And I think I stayed with that company for 2 years. And in that 2 years, the company that recruited for the company that I was working for in the warehousing role offered me a job. Not only that, the friend that I reached out to also offered me a job. So I had 2 jobs offered to me at probably 2x the salary I was currently on, plus commissions on top, which completely changed everything for me. Because I went from earning $55,000, $60,000 a year to like $150,000. Like that's a huge game changer. And I just opened my eyes. I was watching people around me, like where people are just sort of zoned into doing their job. Sure, do your job, do it well, and stand out. So people go, wow, that guy's incredible. Who's that guy who keeps turning up early every day? And every time I leave at 6 o'clock, he's still here. Oh, that's Lawrence. Who is he? Oh, he's been here for 6 months. Right, well, why don't you get him to do the supervisor's role that we're advertising for? And that's kind of where it started. So they offered me a job and I took it. And then I left that role on really good terms. And then I moved into my first junior executive role. And that changed everything because I learned the business. I got to know the person who owned it. I gathered all the skills and education because I was aware. And that's where I built all the knowledge to start my first recruitment company. It's that simple. 5, I'll be quick on this one. This is just build in the background. Just build in the background. People go, I've got a side hustle. I'm building this business, I'm doing all these things, and they talk. Just stop that. Like, do all of this and just build in the background. Put a little bit of money aside, get ready for launch, right? Pick a date. I doubled my income in 2 years, 3 years. So I was putting aside thousands of dollars every month to build my first company, right? And by the way, I haven't even started the company yet, and I'm building the company. And someone else is paying me to learn. Someone else is paying me to develop relationships with entrepreneurs and founders and CEOs and general managers. They pay you for that, right? And I'll tell you what, most employers, if you're super ambitious and want to go start your own company, they want to help you because that's what we do. We help people. It's all about contribution, right? But build in the background. Don't build in the front ground. Keep it on the down low. Just chill, right? And keep it on the down low. And then you'll get to a point when you can bring it to the foreground. But until then, you sort of want to hold it, write the business plan, set up the bank accounts, figure out the insurance, what accountancy software you're going to use, who's going to be your bookkeeper, how's that going to work, what are you going to sell, what's your margin, how are you going to advertise, what does that cost? All these things will come, but they sort of come a little bit down here. You're still down here. So this is building your business for $0. I know you guys were thinking, oh, I just want to make $1 million in 3 months and not spend any money. Well, that doesn't happen. So the app is not about that. Okay, number 6, really simple. Looks like a 0. Number 6, start, but do it as a side hustle. That can be difficult depending on the business you want to deploy, right? If it's a retail business, it's going to be very hard. You sort of have to go all in because you've got to lease a shop and all that sort of stuff. I think if you do that, you've now moved to here. If it's a bricks and mortar business, there has to be a strategy and you have to apply yourself differently. It's very difficult. It's easier to drop ship a product from China than it is to, renovate a cafe and lease a building. But start it as a side hustle. So what do I mean is you're working for company X over here and you want to set up a cafe. Let's do the hardest thing possible, a bricks and mortar or a restaurant, right? So you could pivot your job into that business and you could say to the guy, I want to invest in your business, right? So what you're doing is, I want to put this down here, is you're diversifying. So you're going to diversify. Like you can do that through the transaction of this journey, right? I've done that before. I want to buy in your business. I want to buy your business. I want to come and work for you. I want you to teach me everything and I want to invest in your business in 3 months. What do you mean? I say, oh, I've got some money saved up. How much? I've got $20,000. How much for the business do you want? I don't know, but let's not worry about that. I want to come and work for you. I want you to teach me everything. And then I want to come in with you and let's build this business together. Ooh, that's super powerful, man. By the way, being an entrepreneur and a bit of a loner like I was, I built everything on my own. If I was to do it all over again, I've said this previously, I'd much rather do it with somebody else because it's super hard on your own, right? This is why I'm such an asshole. I'm joking, I'm not. That's funny. Okay, so start the side hustle, diversify and go in if you need to, if it's like a bricks and mortar business. If it's an agency, a consultancy, you can kind of kick it off, right? At about this stage. You made some money, you've done some learning, you've gathered some education, you've got the business plan down, you're starting to get things together. It's been a couple of years, it doesn't happen overnight, and now you're ready to set up the side hustle. So that might be, I'm going to launch my first ads. Or it might be, I'm going to approach my first cafe owners. Just even in your local community. I bet you everyone goes to a cafe and the owners there working and they talk to them every day, right? I could throw a pen out the window and hit a cafe owner walking down the street. But the cafe is indicative of a retail store or a tire shop or I don't know, like a laundromat, right? So just whatever it is, just you've got to move forward with it. So you have your eyes open and be aware. So that's number 6. Okay, number 7. Know your strengths. Super critical. Whew. Man, have I met so many people in my lifetime who think they're good at something and they're not. I've met a lot of those people. There's things I thought I was good at and I was not. Like, you have to be honest with yourself and look at yourself in the mirror. And it's tough, but if you can do it, you'll get there faster. 100%, because you got to know your strength. Everyone's got strengths and weaknesses, by the way. Henry's from California. That's one of his weaknesses. He likes Priuses. It's also another one of his weaknesses. That's a long list, so just write it down. Because your success and conversion to success will also come up of what you've learned, who you know, the people you've learned from, the awareness that you've created, and building in the background are all getting things ready, right? Now, what are you good at? If you were to diversify and go on with a business partner, well, he goes, oh, I'm really good at operations. You go, but I'm really good at operations. Well, that's not, the balance is not kind of right. He goes, I'm good at operations, but I'm no good at sales. And you go, well, I'm great at sales. And then you've got a good relationship, right? So, by the way, sales is a very, very important thing. I'll talk about that in a minute. So know your strengths and know your weaknesses. Are you a good communicator? Super critical in business. If you don't know it, go and learn it. Skills and education. By the way, you're not born being a good communicator. Nobody is. You're not born being a good leader. You're not born being a good listener. You're not born being an entrepreneur. There are no entrepreneurship genes in your DNA sequence. You have to learn that. And the unfortunate thing is people dive into business thinking they know everything, and then when they get into it, they fuck it all up because they haven't done this first. I think that's super critical. Now, you might be lucky and people say, oh, well, yeah, but Lawrence, my father's an entrepreneur and I've been around it all my life, or I know Zucks and he's going to loan me as an angel investor, $1 billion. Well, that's great. But mate, that's not most of us. That's pretty rare, right? So, or my father's super rich and he's going to give me $1 million. Well, that's great. Good on you. I kind of hate you already. I don't know who you are, but most of us start broke. So know your strengths. Like, I'm really good at communicating. Well, I think so. And I leaned into it, so I read books about it. I mean, one of the first books I read for How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. A great book. Like, the title was super negative, I thought, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But when you read the book is not about that. The book is just about communication. And it's actually quite a beautifully written book. And it's about listening. It's about being empathetic. And it's about communicating with intelligence, not over speaking. It's about talking slow. It's about breathing. And it's about identifying people around you that you can lean into and learn from. It's a really great book for that. So if you haven't read it, go and read it. We'll put a link in the description. It's quite an old book so if you're like 22, you're going to go, what? What's a Dale Carnegie? So you have to know your strengths. So make sure you make a list and try and lean into those. If you diversify and bring in a partner, know their strengths, know your strengths, and see if they complement each other so you can be congruent. It's really going to make things easier on your entrepreneurial journey. 8, guess what? I know you hate it. Sales. Everyone hates sales. That's why they put it down in the basement, right? So you have to be able to sell. Any business that you have requires sales. It's funny, right? If you look at those, you remember 2008, right? The economy collapses, right? It was because of aggressive sales in the market. So what they were doing is they were selling mortgages that had been sold once or twice or even 3 times. The recovery of the debt was unattainable because the person who owned the mortgage couldn't afford to pay the mortgage. So they didn't close on the mortgage, they resold it to another company, right? So they were bidding and selling those mortgages off. Over time, the collateral got too heavy and the market fell over. What's that movie called?
Wolf of Wall Street?
No, it's got nothing to do with it. They were selling stocks from companies that really didn't trade or weren't making any money and no one had heard of them. Anyway, so sales, you have to be able to sell. So what does that mean? I think if you're going to start a business, you have to consider the vehicle of getting your product or service to the market and being paid for it. I know marketing's wrapped up in that, I get that. But who in the business will be responsible for that? Someone has to. I always say to entrepreneurs, I want to start a company, what do you want to do? I want to do this. Great. Who's going to sell the product? Because you're a tech guy. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you can build all the tech you want, but who's going to sell it? Someone has to take it to the market. Someone has to talk to a client. Someone has to go and pitch it in a boardroom. And tech guys can't do that. Now, I'm just using tech guys as an example because, SaaS is a big deal right now, and AI is influencing those pitches, and there's a lot of business being in startup and a lot of investment going in that space. But if I pivot and go, oh, okay, what if it was a cafe, right? We'll go back to bricks and mortar. Yeah, but who's going to sell the coffee? What do you mean? They just walk in? No. But who's going to bring them in there? Who's going to do the advertising, the social media, the marketing? Like, who's really good at that? And this guy goes, oh, I'm really passionate about coffee. You'll go out of business being passionate about coffee if you can't sell any of it. So sales is really critical, right? There's that story about Sally who bakes pies, right? Have you heard that story? Yeah. Sally is the best pie baker, in the whole county, right? In the whole state. Everyone loves her pies, and for years people have been telling her, you should go start your own pie shop. She rustles up the courage, and one day she goes, you know what? She has a bad day at work. She resigns. She goes, I'm going to go start a pie shop. So she loans $250,000 against the mortgage of her property. The bank give it to her. They probably shouldn't have. And then she goes and starts a pie shop. And then all of a sudden, she starts this beautiful little pie shop. She spends $150,000 on decking it out. Beautiful paint, nice pictures, nice plants, beautiful tables and chairs. And she's like, this is going to be so amazing. I'm awesome, and I love pies. I just love them, right? And then she launches, and then for the first 30 days, it's great. She's selling all these pies in her local community. And then she notices something. A couple of months later, she's not selling as many pies. She goes, oh, that's okay. Then she goes a couple of more months, and then she goes, wow, I'm selling less pies than I did last month than I did 3 months ago. And she didn't know why. The moral of the story is in under a year, she foreclosed on the shop and went out of business and lost all of her money. Why? She was great at baking pies. Everyone loved the pies, but she didn't know how to sell them. Like a pie shop could open down the road who also sell pies. People who love her pies move from the local community. And how many pies can one person eat, right? So when it's a novelty, you normally sell a lot when it's new. But where the skill set comes in is through sales development, is how do I sell this long term? What's my LTV, lifetime value? Like normally you would have to buy another shop in another area who also love those pies to duplicate your revenue, but you also duplicate your OPEX. So you've sort of got to think about that, because poor Sally, she had to go back to work. Her mortgage increased by $250,000 and she had a really bad experience. Now she still makes great pies, but she didn't know how to turn it into a business. That's the moral of the story. So sales is pretty critical. 9. Execution. Execution. Whew. This is a big one. This is the biggie. One of my favorite things and one of my favorite words is execution. Not because I want to kill anybody, because I think everything is about execution. Good ideas are great, but execution matters. It's one of the things that I lean into. So, and the obstacle is the way is one of those other things I really sort of grab hold of. And that's all about execution as well, right? So how can the worst day of your life be the best day of your life? How can the toughest negative business impact be the most positive business impact, right? How can losing $1 million generate 10, right? Execution. So you have to look at the word execution and think, okay, if we're going to start a business, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to diversify, I'm going to go find somebody else. I've done all my learning, I've saved a bit of money, I've got a business plan, I've learned as much as I can, I've found someone who knows how to sell, or I know how to sell, now I have to execute against it. It's just a natural byproduct, right? It's a natural byproduct. Now you're sort of here, you're getting close to this guy. Then you execute. So if you were starting a side hustle here, you're executing, but now you really need to step it up, right? So you've got to execute again, but at a much bigger scale. Because I know guys who do a side hustle in their bedroom, for example. I don't know, does anyone really do a side hustle in their bedroom these days? I don't really know. They probably do it from the lounge room. Let's be honest. So who are still doing it 2 or 3 years later. Why? Because they haven't learned how to sell and execute. They've learned what they've learned, and it takes them to a certain level, and then it falls over. By the way, here are the categories. 0 to 1 million, step 1. 1 to 3 million, step 2. This is where it gets hard. That's kind of easy if you know how to execute and you know sales. Like, you can do that. Here's the hard one, 3 to 5. Very difficult. So if you're super smart, you're a great entrepreneur, you know how to do all of this, you can achieve 0 to 1 in 2 years. On average, some people can do it in a year. I've done it in a year before. And under a year, actually. So from 1 to 3 is another 2 years, so that's 4 years. 3 to 5, you normally get a little bit of momentum here, so I'm going to say 5 years. And what happens is people stay here and they don't go any further. Because the majority of successful businesses do not get past 5 million. Most businesses don't get past 1, but the ones who do normally get to 5, but they don't grow any bigger than that. It's because they don't understand this. This is really, really, really critical. So, of course, execution means leadership, hierarchy, strategy, systems, software, innovation, product market fit, marketing, all that stuff comes into play. But I'm wrapping all of that up under the word execution. If you can manage to get to 6 million, like, man, you're in the top 3%. Getting to 6 to 10 you can probably do. Getting from 10 to 25 gets easier, believe it or not. Because just think about it. If these are all numbered, right, and you're traveling down the hierarchy of success financially, each year and each stage you go through, what happens? Your execution gets better. Your sales become more robust. You're out of the side hustle. You've identified your real strengths. You're building really good, solid business. You're very aware. You built so much skills and education to have to go through this. And you've got entrepreneurs around you now. So now you're in a bit of a zone. It's all of the same things, but at different levels. That's how you build a business from zero. And I think that's super critical to understand. Some people don't get it. Just give it time, right? It's like a system or a process. You just have to give a little bit. What was I doing there? So you just have to give it time to go through that, right? If you can get to 6 million, you can definitely get to 10. Now that would probably take you another 2 to 3 years, I reckon, on average. That's what I see with people. And then you got to get to 25. This journey is easier than this journey, believe it or not. To get to 25 million post 10 is easier than get from 0 to 5 million. And it takes you a smaller amount of time. Why? Because all of this is being learnt, absorbed, innovated, and improved. Your knowledge is so great right now. Your execution skills are honed and they're ready. Who do you know? The network around you is so strong right now. So now you're hanging out with guys and girls. If you're at 6 million, you're hanging out with people who are at 25. And they're going to pull you up to this number. So that's critically important. It's commitment. So many times I have seen entrepreneurs start this journey and they're just not committed to it. They kind of start, but they don't really start. They're kind of in, but they're not really in. They're kind of committed, but they're not really committed. They know how to sell, but they're not really selling. Well, you get the idea. I could just go around in circles, keep just saying the same thing over and over again. Commitment. You need commitment, mate, because this is super hard. Like, you're going to get hit more times than you can imagine. It's going to be more painful than you can imagine. It may affect your relationship with your friends, family, and your partner, with your children. You may have to delay life a little bit. You're going to have to stop hanging out with your friends. You can't go to the beach that weekend. You can't go and see the movie. You can't go to the party or the wedding. You just have to not do that. But that's what that is. And if you have that and you really want this, that's what brings it all together. From my experience. By the way, no one's born with a commitment gene. You have to build that. That's a callus that you're dedicated. It's like going to the gym, right? Like dude, when you walk 100 fucking miles a week,
I do work with that.
If you don't do it, something feels wrong, right? You feel off. So I had a really crazy day yesterday. Like, it was such a busy day, one of the busiest days I've probably had this year. And other people were relying on me to do things for them, which helped the company move forward, right? And I had to go there. I had to have a workout. It was my workout day, right? I still did it. Now, it would have been so easy for me to say, oh, I'm really busy right now. I'll do it tomorrow. Or I can validate myself. So look, I've got so much work to do. It's the busiest day that I've had in a long time. I just won't go. But I just did it anyway. Why? Because I was committed to it. So what I did is I just slowed down for the afternoon. I didn't, I had to work, a good, 15-hour day yesterday. That just means I got to bed late and I woke up a bit tired. No one's going to die. That you have to be committed to it. So you have to do what you have to do when you have to do it for the right reasons, right? So don't bullshit yourself. Otherwise, just don't start. Like, just don't start. It's just easier on everybody around you and probably yourself, because this is hard, right? Imagine churning over $100 million in revenue, man. Like, it was super hard. It's super difficult. So, but you have to be committed to it. What does that mean? You got to have the right reasons. It's got to be connected to something that I think has contribution, right? Whether you're doing it for your children, you're doing it for community. It's a product that will help a lot of people. It's a service that will help a lot of people. We do education. So we help people move towards prosperity, whatever it is that means to them. So it's kind of a good product to get connected to and get behind, right? So the commitment value for me goes up a little bit, and I can talk passionately about that to people. And my commitment is built around that foundation. So I've built an infrastructure around commitment, and I hold myself accountable. And you should have other people hold yourself accountable. That's how you do it. So let me recap, right? Who do you know? So you're starting from zero. Who do you know? Work for an entrepreneur and go and work for free for $0. Pick up the phone, send the DM, send the email, put on the chicken suit with the sign. I don't care, whatever you have to do. Skills and education, number 3. You got to get skilled. You'll get skills from these things. Working for an entrepreneur for free will give you skills and education. Read books, do courses, whatever you need to do. Man, I did a financial course for $25 online, and I learned so much about designing balance sheets. It was $25. The course took me an hour and a half to complete online. It was a super great course. Open your eyes and be aware. Know what's happening around you. Know what's happening in your market. Be able to foresee things as well, right? Where is my market going to be in 5 years from now? And plan for that. Okay, so build in the background. Take your time. Slow the fuck down. If you don't have all the skills and knowledge, you can still get started, but just go slow. And what that does is it supports the journey of developing skills and education with the right people around you, right? So building in the background could mean finding new friends, putting better people around me, being more aware, setting up a balance sheet, building a business plan in the background. You get home at 5 o'clock, instead of sitting on the couch watching, Netflix for 2 hours, commit that 2 hours towards your business. You don't need to be watching Netflix. Not when you're building, you need to be committed. All right, start a side hustle. So when you'll get to a point, there'll be a point, right? Let me do this. There will be a point, and it's probably about here, where you can launch a side hustle. So if you say, this is my end game here, oh, look at that, it's like a pizza pie graph. So this is what you're doing here, and you'll get to the point, I'm going to start a side hustle now. I'm going to start to generate revenue and just figure it out. So you should do that. But don't go all in yet, you're not ready. Just be careful, right? Now, if you think you are, do it. Commit to it, go all in, right? So I didn't do that. I did it on a couple of businesses and they failed. And then I realized, okay, I should generate a little bit of revenue and start to test the market, product market fit before I go all in, right? So know your strengths. go on with a partner and diversify, know their strengths, but you should also know your strengths. What are you really good at? Someone has to be good at sales. You have to find someone who is good at sales. Now you can outsource that, but that's going to cost you a lot of revenue. If you can bring that into the business as a talent, that's going to pay divs. Execution, no harm, no foul. We all know what that means. You need to execute well. Good ideas are great, but execution matters. And the last thing, most important, commitment. It's going to be hard, super hard, like painfully hard, and you won't even know it. I think sometimes with really great entrepreneurs, like I use Alex Hormozy a lot, right? But I really like that dude about how hard he worked. Where he's got all these gyms, he's got all these businesses, and none of them are working because he's spread too thin and he's all over the place. He's not focusing on what matters. Right, so it was like I said last week about Elon Musk, where they had to get the 5,000 cars on their production line for Tesla. Otherwise, the business is in trouble. Like, doing everything all day isn't how you get there. It's being committed to working on what matters most is how you do it. So that's it. That's the 10 things. Now, that's from my experience, by the way. This is not bullshit. This is what I did. I did variations to this, but I learned if I was to do it all over again, that if I wanted to get to 5, that's how I would do it. It would probably take around 5 years to do that. Now, if I did it, I'd probably do it in 2, if not less. But this is where you're going to apply all of this, right? That will build the foundation to apply yourself to that strategy to generate millions of dollars in sales and in revenue. So I hope that helped. Henry's going to put all of this into a fact sheet. So click on the link below and you'll get access to that. And that's it. So I hope that helped. Thank you for joining today. Really do appreciate it. I'm going to go and do some work. I'm not really doing that. Just pretending. And we'll see you next time.